Blow it out. Our goal is going to be as present as possible. We're going to get back to our lives, get back to our hopes, our fears, our egos in about an hour. Well, let's take one more deep breath in. Collectively blow it out. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Come back into your body. Come back into the room. When you're ready, you can slowly begin to open your eyes. And let's jam. So I know this date very well. It was January 17th, 2015. And I sat in my truck in the dark outside of a church in Santa Barbara. And I had a hat, which I'm not going to put on because of my headphones, but as you guys can imagine, pulled to about here so that, God forbid, anybody who looked in my truck and saw me would recognize me sitting outside of a church, because then they would conclude without question that I was going to walk into the AA meeting that was happening there. And that morning, I had called a good buddy of mine and said, you know what? I think it's time. I think I'm done drinking, but mostly I think I'm done smoking dope. And I think I'm done looking at porn. And I think I'm done being addicted to Facebook. And if anybody wants to really have a call, we can have a call about Facebook in a couple of weeks. Like, I would send my classes out on 400-meter runs as a CrossFit coach, and then like scurry back into my office and check Facebook. So while alcohol wasn't necessarily my demon, if I took all of my demons and put them into alcohol or one particular subject, I was a raging alcoholic. I couldn't do, from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, there was some kind of manipulation device or some kind of substance or some kind of something that was happening. So I remember walking into that meeting, again, terrified, like, holy fuck, please don't let anybody who knows me see me here. And sitting and just listening to all of these people who had stories that had nothing to do with mine and were nothing like mine. I think the woman who spoke had like 4 DUIs, had a restraining order against her husband, had like crashed into multiple buildings. And I was like, holy shit, you have had more to drink by 8 a.m. every day than I had in a week. But yet I walked out of that meeting with the decision that if all of these people can live without alcohol, and it was that much of a challenge for them, then so can I. And I know that date because I haven't had a drink since that date. I haven't gotten high since that date. I've dove into other areas of consciousness purposely and watched this extraordinary, we're going to talk about in a minute with Courtney, all of these extraordinary unintended consequences happen that were all positive. And not to sugarcoat it all, had to walk down the journey of, okay, what the fuck do I do now at a wedding? What do I do at a bachelor party? What do I do at a cocktail party? The juice of the story is I'd found out the week before I was going to get divorced. So it was, oh, cool. Now I get to be single and don't drink. Am I stigmatized? Like, what do we do on a date? Every date I've ever taken someone on has been like, let's go get a drink, or ended that way. But the journey was extraordinary, and it's something I'm super, super grateful for, and something that I see alcohol very differently now. And whether people choose to drink and choose not to drink, I don't care. I'm not here to promote and say, hey, everybody on this call, I never want you to drink. And I'll tell my clients, hey, I never want you to drink. Don't tell anybody, right? I've gone to bars with people. I still go to bars with people. I go on dates where the dates drink. It's up to them. And from the reaction we got from one Instagram post, like the unbelievable reaction of question after question after question after thought after private message. This is an issue. And it may not be your issue, but if it's not your issue, it's going to be someone in your life's issue. And if it's not someone in your life's issue right now, which it is, it will be shortly. So before I introduce our guest, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Traver Boehm. I'm the founder of Man Uncivilized and the Uncivilized Nation. I'm a coach, a writer, a speaker, and someone who helps people get from A to B as fast as possible and with the least amount of pain, even though I like to have a little bit in there just for funsies. I work with humans and am a human performance specialist and a social dynamic specialist and a lover of potential. Abso-fucking-lutely love potential. And so before I introduce our amazing guest, I want to set the frame for tonight because this is a topic that people are scared to talk about, are ashamed to talk about, and or triggered when we talk about. So Courtney and I made the decision before we got on, and I'm going to go right into her intro, that we want to keep this super open. Like we wanted you guys to feel like you're just sitting in our living room and you're overhearing a conversation about two people who just don't drink, and there's no judgment. There's no finger pointing. There's no anything. This is a completely open forum. We want to talk about the shit that people don't talk about because the questions we got were really interesting and unique and things that we don't necessarily think about. So moving on. Why is the woman in red here? You guys can all see her, hopefully. Courtney McNabb is a powerhouse human, and I love her to death. And I love her to death because she fits into my little life motto, which is be unapologetic. Do hard shit and be unapologetic about it. And take everybody in your life and everybody who works with her and everybody who comes into her field and say, hi, this is the truth mirror. I don't think you wanted to look in this, but look, oh, you're done. Oh, no, we're not going anywhere. And that's why she gets the results she gets with her people. So Court, before I go any further, would you mind just giving us 1 minute? Who are you? What do you do? What do you love? Tell us a little bit about you so people know who you are.
Yeah, sure. I'm Courtney, and I am currently stationed in Louisiana. I am a women's coach, and I work with women who are stuck, help them get unstuck and see the things that they can't see.
Beautiful.
And do the shit that they want to do. And yeah, I got sober 4 months ago.
Beautiful.
Almost 4 months ago.
Beautiful.
Got sober. I'm sober curious. That's honestly the truth of it. I'm on a 6-month sober challenge that may extend past 4 months, and I don't know. We'll see.
I love it. I love it. And so one of the reasons I wanted Courtney on is because she's not 25 years sober, right? She's in the mix of this. She's in the curiosity. And Courtney, just for the audience, how old are you?
I'm 29. I just turned 29.
Okay, so she's 29. So she's not, I'm in my 40s. This is a lot easier. A lot of my friends just naturally kind of quit drinking, but a lot of younger people are still dealing with this because it's literally, what do you do socially? Right? So I give her even more credit for doing it. And I don't want to diminish your work by saying at your age, but it's extraordinary the things you are doing at your age. If you wouldn't mind just sharing with us a little bit about like what inspired this for you. This is a big change for someone. What inspired it on your end?
Yeah, sure. So I know that you're like, yeah, you're young for doing this, but the truth of the matter is I'm from South Louisiana and I'm from a huge drinking culture. So I got started early, and like there's other people from Louisiana on this call, and they're like, yeah, I know. We got started really early, and I'm not talking like a couple drinks, like hard. And then I went to college, and I went to an SEC college. I went to LSU. I still hold the longest keg stand in an undisclosed fraternity's history. I'm not kidding. Like, it was really, really
This is why we brought you on. You're kind of famous.
It's still like to this day, last time I checked is there. So I really went all out with drinking, and I'd be remiss to say I didn't enjoy it because at a time in my life I did in high school and I did in early college until I didn't. So, you know, everyone's different on this spectrum. Like, how much do you drink? How much is it a problem? How much does it affect your life? But I got it all out of my system, and it was seriously impacting the way I showed up in the world, because it wasn't a couple drinks. It was a lot of drinks, socially acceptably on the weekends.
Beautiful. And what was the initial reaction from people around you when you said, hey guys, guess what? You're all going right and I'm going to go left?
So I know that you got a lot of people asking you, like, what do I do? Like, I'm not supported. I think I got lucky in that I was super supported. My family had seen the dark parts of what drinking looked like for me. And also my friends did too. And I was also extremely protective of myself whenever I got into this sober container. So I was not going out a lot at all. I was staying home and just feeling into what being sober looked like.
Beautiful. What do you think, if you can think of one, like what was an unintended positive? Like what was something you're like, oh my God, I never knew that would happen and did happen?
So there are a lot of unintended positives, a lot more than I ever anticipated. But one unintended positive was that I accepted myself more. So
say more about that. That's a biggie.
I know. So we can go really deep here.
Yeah, fuck it. Let's roll the dice. Do it.
Okay, let's just do it. So what I discovered was that my acceptable eating disorder and my body image issues were directly related to drinking. So
thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. Yeah. Keep going, please.
So that's what I would do. Like I would be super restrictive, like a lot of us are. Monday through Thursday, work out a ton, and then Friday night I'd go out to the bars, and it'd be a way for me to get external validation and attention and all of the things. So whenever I took out that motivation of what am I drinking for, things started to shift. Like the restrictions started to shift, the way I exercised started to shift, the way I looked at my whole week started to shift. And as that changed, the acceptance of who I am beyond what I am on the outside really started to come through for me.
Wow. And that in itself is worth its weight in any restriction, let's call it, right? Any social weirdness, any like, oh, you're differentness. I agree with you that, if we look at, we got a cop on the call, Dave, how many of your clients and client situations involve alcohol?
A very large percentage of them, especially on night shift. Night shift on the weekends, it's, everybody's drinking. People aren't calling us on the weekends to watch the football game with them. They're calling because they're drunk and they've fought with somebody about the football game at their house, and now somebody needs to go to jail because they're hurt and drunk, and so it's very prolific in my line of work.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I just moved to Colorado, and throughout the country, marijuana is being legalized. And it was fascinating to me for how long alcohol was legal, and I know it's still legal, and yet some other things that didn't, car accidents, domestic violence, rape, everything that we can think of publicly as far as the law goes, had alcohol tied to it. But yet because it's so socially acceptable, it makes it one of the harder things to give up. I think not only because it's so socially acceptable, but it's so interwoven into the social fabric. And so I think that's why we got so many of the questions we got around, how do you let go of this and still remain an American or an Australian or how do you remain a human? And I would love to address a little bit about that, because there is a transition point. Like Courtney and I both talked, and I sent this out in an email, that it wasn't just like, hey, I'm going to give up drinking and now everything's super easy, right? You actually do, if this is something anybody on this call is considering, and let me just throw in here right now too, that there's a chat function. And if you don't want to chat to everybody, you can, or you can chat to me or Courtney privately if you have a question that you're worried about. Let me just throw that out there. There were challenging times. There were times when I went to a wedding or say a party and went, man, my go-to feel okay in the room is having this between me and the person I'm speaking to. or it's just the like, I know what to do with my hands. I know what to do when I walk into the event. I walk into the event, I see two people, and I go, hey, where's the bar? Mm-hmm. I mingle around the bar. I have my first drink. I have my second drink. And then what do you know? I'm fucking hilarious. And then the rest of the night kind of goes from there. And I said, I wasn't a big drinker, but yet just taking that away, there was a room and space suddenly where I went, wow, I got to fill that. Shit. And why am I so nervous around people? Why don't I just walk into a room and be like, hey, I'm Trevor. Where are you from? What are you doing? Yeah, tell me a little bit more about you. Or as we'll get to in a minute, which was like the number one question in the history of questions, what do you do on a date? There is going to be a journey with this stuff, folks. So know that you're going right when society's going left, or you're going left when society's going right. There's a reason why this says uncivilized and not do all the same shit that civilized people do and hope for a different result. So if this is in your thinking, know you may get some shit. But now, this is now for me coming up on 4 years later, all of the people in my life, with very few exceptions, aren't drinkers. And again, like, I'm not hanging out with AA people. I'm not hanging out with church people. It just sort of gravitated that I don't want to go spend my Sunday drinking 6 beers watching football. I actually want to go hiking, or I want to go surfing, or I want to go work out, or I want to wrestle, or I want to do the 75 million other things that I sort of always wanted to do when I was drinking and would sit there and drink and watch commercials about, but didn't do. So just know, you guys, there's going to be a journey. And the big question I had gotten today, and then we're going to dive into some more with Courtney, is what do you do when people in your life don't support you? Or what do you do? A lot of guys on this call, what do you do when the guys give you shit? Are like, what do you mean you don't want to fucking drink? Like, I don't want to drink. And so let's talk about that. And I think it's really important, first and foremost, for you to know why you're doing this. Court, do you agree? Did that help you of having like a solid foundation of why you were doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I have to lay this foundation down. Like, I didn't just like decide, okay, I'm going to do 6 months. I dipped in so many times. So it was at like 25 that I was like, hey, you know what? I've seen a lot of the bottom of a lot of bottles here. Like, I'm kind of realizing that the solution is not at the bar. Yeah. But I wasn't hooked, right? So I'd do like a month. Like, I did my first month at 25 and I loved it, but I went back. And so I'd go back and forth, back and forth. So for some people, I mean, I think you just need to taste it. Like, you don't.
What drew you back? Was it social? Was it friends? Yeah. Was it?
I still love, the part of me still loved a part of it. And I think it wasn't until now that I'm realizing, like you were saying, like, I can go to a concert and it can be equally as fun and sexy and hypnotic. Yeah. And intoxicating. For, a good word. As when in fact, it can be even better. But there's a process, like you have to create evidence that it can be that way. And if you are so convinced that alcohol is the correlation between you and fun, you got to break that correlation down. And for me, it took a couple years.
I'm totally stealing that. You have to create evidence. Everybody catch that? Like, she just dropped a fucking gem here. And this is whether we're talking about alcohol, whether we're talking about self-esteem, whether we're talking about having conscious relationships, whether we're having a relationship with our body. She just dropped a fucking gem. You will not get that evidence until you seek it and accept it. Right? Same thing. I had to go to cocktail parties and be like, I had a blast. I talked to everybody, not just the 6 people who were at the bar who really just wanted to talk about how cool the bar was. Wow. I remember that day being like, wow, that was a wonderful night. And then got up at 6 a.m. and ripped shit up in the gym. Court, let's switch to some of the specific questions. And so let's go with number 1 that everybody, because people are going to be hearing this too on the recording. Will you become a sexless social pariah who never dates and lives by herself with 95 cats? I think that's is that going to happen?
I think that's so funny. A sexless social pariah.
I had like 9 of those specific questions. Are you alone?
I truly thought that was what was going to happen for me. Like when I first started, and like I kind of had to accept it. Like, and I was like, all right, Court, like this is gonna be it for a while.
I would have loved to have heard that pep talk. All right, babe.
It was sad. It's funny, but it was sad, you know?
Yeah, of course.
And so yeah, so like the first couple months, yeah, it was sexless and kind of lonely. And the reason for that, and I don't know if this was the same with your journey, but like I was feeling in that space of not drinking all the feelings that I was shutting out when I was drinking, which was a lot of feelings, like a lot of fucking feelings. I didn't have space for sex or dating or flirting. Like I was reckoning with me, with all of the shit that I'd repressed and pushed down by drinking. And I think we underplay that for sure. You know, we have a glass of wine and we're like, oh, that's fine. And it is fine. But you also are bypassed. I mean, you can't deny that you are bypassing something. Right. And every time you bypass something, that adds up to a really big picture of bypass. So anyway, especially if you're binge drinking like I was. I mean, that's super bypassing. Yeah. And then I would binge eat on Sunday nights, and then the whole thing would go on. But after that period of reckoning, you know, that 3 months, I was like, oh, you know, my hormones are balancing, the chemicals are coming back online, and the world just kind of started to open up in a very unexpected way. And now whenever I'm dating, like, yes, like even on this call, like get a little bit nervous, and that's okay. Like you were saying, like before it was like, I need to drink now. Like we need a bottle of wine ASAP. And then 2 glasses in, you start seeing this Courtney that like this archetype, I guess, that like I want to bring out on a first date. Right. And you have to relearn how to bring out this side of you in sobriety, which is such a muscle that is fun to flex.
Beautifully stated. Yeah. My journey was a little different. I was in the middle. This was awesome. Like get divorced, business partnership fell apart, AA. That was like 9 days of my life in a row. So it was like, again, feeling everything. But I think you made a very, very good point. For those people, it doesn't feel like everybody on here is waking up in gutters. And if you are, please go to AA right now and get yourself some help or reach out to a counselor. And the people who were talking to us online, that wasn't really their deal. But 2 factors I want to touch on that you mentioned. One is, the first is, it's the quick, I'm just not going to deal with this right now. Which again, if that's conscious, if you're like, fuck, it's Friday night, I've had a big week, I just want a glass of wine, I want to watch some Netflix, and I have a to-do list tomorrow, and I'll handle it. Great. That's part 1, right? But you have to understand that, yes, you are doing some suppressing. I would like to speak specifically to the men on this call who may be single or dating, or know men who are single or dating. And I was terrified that literally no one would ever want to go out with me. And what I found instantaneously, who knew, was that most of the women I had met, or most of the women I was meeting, were saying, do you have any idea what the dating world is like and alcohol? The last 4 guys showed up wasted. The last 3 guys were wasted within the first 20 minutes. One guy like crashed his car on the way here, and let's just keep this polite, but about 20 out of 20 of them were like, and then he couldn't fuck me. I was like, oh, guess who's going to win this competition? Yeah. So there's that too, boys. And unless we're all 19 and perhaps not getting older, where some things need to be taken into consideration, I want to put all the chips on my dick side. Just keep that in your mind too. This is how we talk. It's just two people in my living room, right? So guys, just know that most of the women you go on a date with have had a shitty experience with a guy and alcohol. And most of them have had multiple shitty experiences with alcohol, with men and alcohol. And the entire female population of the world, except people who go out with me and the guys on this call, have issues with guys who aren't present, period. And issues with guys who aren't open, and issues with guys who are hiding behind some kind of armor, whether that's armor is liquid or otherwise. So let's just crush and eliminate this stupid idea that you're not going to have a social life, friends, dates, sex, romance, love in your life unless you drink. Moving on. Question 2 we got, that was a biggie. Let's go back to it. What do we do about people who don't support us? Did you have anybody in your life, Court, who was like, this is stupid, we miss you, yada, yada?
Honestly, I didn't. And
okay.
People, this is the thing. I, at this point also, was amped to be sober.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I looked up to people who were sober. Whenever someone was like, if I went on a date with someone who was sober, I was like, really? Like, tell me more. I was fascinated. And I had already thought that sober was sexy. I'd already bought into that idea. So even if that does come in my field, it's like,
not your issue. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll say that most people in my life were supportive, but I do remember having one person who is no longer in my life, but was, like this, saying about a month in, like, hey, I want to take you out for a drink. This is stupid.
Wow. And
being like, here's the deal, man. And this is how I framed it, which also helped people in the conversation. I just say, maybe I'll come back to it, but I'm going to go a year. I'm just going to go a year and see what happens, because someone had actually proposed that to me. She had said, go a year. And if you can't go a year when you've made a decision and you're kind of a stubborn ass anyway, then you may want to look into it. And at the end of that year, reevaluate. So that was something that I told my buddy at the time. I was just like, hey man, I'm going to go a year, see what happens. So yeah, maybe in 2017, you and I will do it. And I didn't. But I think what we talked about earlier about owning it is really important. And then the second, this is what I mentioned today on Instagram, is enroll those people. So say like, you know what? I'm really trying to do something extraordinary here. Like I'm really trying to do something for my health. Like, man, I'm getting after it. And I would love to have your support. I would just love to have your support. I would love to know that you're on my team. Guys, when we give other men a job to do, like it makes like, oh yeah, go ahead, yeah, I'll be on your team. I'll enroll you and support you, right? Like imagine having to explain this to your German Shepherd, and you were just like, no more bones. Like, I don't want to. You know what I would love? I would love it if we went a year without bones together, and then they'd be like, okay, I get it. So do that enrolling, and let them know that this is a personal choice that you're doing to better yourself. And what I kind of alluded to too, this is why I don't have a relationship with that last gentleman I mentioned. If you're trying to better yourself, and at this point in our lives, like this is what Courtney and I do. We talk to people every day who are like, I'm stuck here, I want to get better. Everybody on this call is giving up their time and their energy because they want to get better. It feels like there's this massive uplift of consciousness right now in the world. Thanks a lot to social media, even though social media is the devil, but it's helping people come up. So if we can say that, like, hey, I'm just trying this. And if you can say this to yourself, if they're not on board, fuck them, right? Just don't have them in your life. And I know that's a big exhale, right? It's okay. Because for a lot of us, that could be parents. That could be romantic partners. That could be best friends that we've had for 20 years. But go ahead, Court.
Yeah, if I could, Trevor. And
sure,
also,
sure.
Like, if you are trying to better yourself and you are on that path and you're trying to clear space for your growth, well, you're going to make a lot of space with those people who are not in the decision. Because even if you have a drinker who's like like a lot of my close friends are drinkers, but in no way, shape, or form are they like, Courtney, don't do this. But the ones who are that way would make space for your growth and your expansion. Like, it might hurt at first, but they're holding you back. For
sure. And the more you grow, the less those people are going to be able to keep up anyway. I mentioned this in the initial write-up. One of the main reasons I stopped drinking was because I just felt that was the entry fee to the life that I'd always wanted to live, to actually doing this, to having public speaking, to writing a book, to having my own company without a partner, to being able to meditate for 8 hours at a time, for having extraordinarily intimate conversations with anybody on the planet. I just had this like glimmer of a thought that, I've listened to every goddamn Tony Robbins CD since I was 15, and I still haven't gotten to this point. What could be in the way? And maybe that is the price of entry. And what Courtney just alluded to too is, if you get rid of a part-time job that also gives you the flu twice a week, holy shit, do you have a lot of open space and a lot of space to step into and grow. Court, if we could shift real quick because of the time of the year, because of what's over your shoulder, talk to me about the holidays.
The holidays, yes.
How do people get through my old Christmas and was everybody wasted and all the kids stoned out of their fucking noodles? Like, oh, this is how we all get along. Yeah. Now it doesn't happen. Go ahead.
So whenever I signed up for this 6-month challenge, I looked at the calendar. I said, okay, Courtney, you're going to be doing this on your birthday. You're going to be doing this on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, and New Year's. Perfect challenge. And so I've successfully gotten through Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And my birthday. And so is your question how to navigate not drinking during the holidays? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's such a big thing for people, even just what do we do around the holidays? We get together and drink. Like Christmas parties are notoriously, this is in companies, like people just get drink and then sleep together. Yeah. How do they handle that?
So I have to say this before I go into it. Drinking is not a panacea for all of your problems.
Wait. I would love for you to say that again.
Drinking, stopping drinking is not a panacea for all of your problems. Now you're going to be able to navigate through your problems and through your shadows and through your feelings a lot better. And you are going to be able to meet those growth edges that you're coming up against. The Tony Robbins CD that you're like, oh, I want to be there, like can't quite be there. Like you are going to be able to surpass that with the extra space, with the tools. Yeah. But did I go for sugar? Like, you bet your ass I did. Like, Yeah, I see, Lorraine. Like, yes. Like, I definitely substituted other numbing agents for alcohol in that container, especially because it was triggering. My family is big drinkers, and they were shithoused on Thanksgiving. I mean, like, shithoused. And at a certain point, that does become uncomfortable. Yeah. So I'm still learning, Traver, honestly, like how to navigate that.
Yeah. What was one thing? Was it a conversation you had with yourself? Was it like, what was there a tactic or a tool? Like, what did you do when it was like, I'm triggered, I want to drink? Besides grab a bag of cookies, what else did you do internally?
So I did what I do, and I did what I tell my clients to do. I went and I closed the door and I set up space to just feel what the fuck I was feeling, which was a lot of fear, a lot of, I don't know how to exist in this container in this way. I don't know how to relate in this container in this way. Oh, wait, it was actually alcohol that was keeping us from actually creating an intimate relationship. That's what's keeping my family apart, actually, if we're really being honest. That's why we're drinking so much, is because we're terrified to actually sit with one another and with what we're feeling and with what's happening in the relationship.
I don't know what to say after that. If I could pick this mic up and drop it, I would. I think she just fucking crushed that answer. You went and sat with yourself and you sat with your feelings, which is terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
and uncomfortable as shit, isn't it?
Oh, it's so uncomfortable. It feels like something's trying to crawl out of your chest, something that is dying is trying to crawl out of your chest. Like,
yeah, and the only way through that is through it, isn't it?
It's 100% through it. You have to feel it in every scenario. You have to. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, one of the things I tell people is, if there are events you have to be at, right? Like you can't skip the company party. You can't skip the family function. Like I remember going to my very first gym Christmas party at the gym I used to own. The gym Christmas parties were legendary throughout Santa Barbara for just being disasters. Imagine 300 CrossFitters, more alcohol and drugs than you could ever imagine. So I showed up with a 6-pack of ginger beer and just didn't tell people because it wasn't public really yet what I was doing. And no one fucking knew. No one had a clue after the first 20 minutes what was in my hand. And I just navigated the room, and about a bunch of times, just like you, Court, I went outside because I was so sick of people telling me they loved me from like 2 inches away from my face that I just was like, yeah, awesome. So if you need to, show up prepared, right? And you're also free to not attend things. It's okay to say to people like, I'm not going to make it. And to put your health, your well-being, your goals, again, I keep going back to over and over and over. And every time we meet, this vision of the life you want to live and that you're birthing into the world, make that more important than one event. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be hard, but do it anyway, and do it and do it and do it. And I guarantee you after the first time and you go, oh, wow, I missed a bunch of drunk people getting wasted and doing stupid shit, and I could care less. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's family, I recommend doing exactly what Courtney did and having some entries and exits that are safe. So have a room you can go into and splash some water on your face to take a couple deep breaths. If there are people in your family who know and support you, tell them. Say like, yeah, I'm a little nervous about coming to Christmas dinner because everybody's going to pick on me for not drinking. I would love it if when that happens, if you could just fire in like, hey, leave her alone. You know what? It's Christmas, and then change the topic. Mm-hmm. So if you can enroll someone with you to help you with this, then you don't feel like you're all alone in the whole process. Holidays are tough. And also, gang, holidays are triggering for people sadness-wise, mm-hmm. right? Dave, you posted something today about first responders committing suicide most around the holidays. I think this is the highest suicide time of year. So let's all just maybe agree to look out for each other. And let's all maybe to agree that if we are struggling, there are a number of resources available. Shit, my phone number's on Instagram. You guys can text me if you're in trouble, and I'll try to navigate you to. And people do. People, right, have called and said, I think I'm going to kill myself. Okay, cool. Let's get you some actual help. So let's all agree to do that. Any questions before we want to slowly wrap this up? Let me just read what Rebecca, do you mind if I read what you wrote? I think everybody can see it anyway. The people I've been talking to about my intention to give up alcohol altogether, I've been noting with them that my children don't know a single adult who doesn't drink alcohol. Amazing, huh? And I want to give them a different perspective rather than preach something I don't practice myself. Because as they get older and invited to parties where alcohol will be present, at the moment they have never seen anyone say no thanks. Wow. Good for you. Good for you, right? There's some phenomenon, I don't know the statistic, but it's like drastically different. If the parents don't drink, the kids don't drink. If the parents do drink, the kids do drink. And that's not to say all the time, but primarily. Let me read this next one. When I feel like I'm stuck having to attend those events, I have a 2-drink room rule. When most people start their second drink, I'm out. Good, right? It's a game plan. It's a strategy. Good for you, Jen. It's something that just doesn't make the possibility that wide open, but says, okay, let's keep it to here. Like I actually had hope that I was watching football, and I think was it Jameson? Dave, like someone's like, there's a commercial where they're like, stop and drink water. Like, holy shit. Okay, good. We're all kind of recognizing that this is killing us. So anyone else have questions, you guys, feel free to fire them in here. We want this to be an open conversation. Questions for Courtney about what she does with women, questions for me, questions about alcohol, questions about the holidays. You can also just unmute yourself. You don't have to write them in the chat.
I just want to say quickly what she was saying about how most people connect alcohol with connection. That's the thing right there. Like if you really look at why you drink and you get to the bottom of it, you're trying to connect either with yourself or with other people. And that's just a societally appropriated way to do that. But if you really look at when you're drinking, are you really there? Is it really you? Or is it like some version of you?
Yeah, great point. Yeah, I found that my authenticity went through the roof when I just had to show up and be me, and kind of not what you said of become this happy-go-lucky, really funny character. And was like, oh, but I'm not really talking about shit, right? I'm really not talking about anything that matters or that I care about. Court, before I kind of close this out, where can people find you? I'm going to put your website here. So you guys take note of this because this won't show up after, but she's CourtneyMcNabb.com. But tell us a little bit about like, what do you got coming up? Anything, any programs, any classes, anything that you're working on, and where can people find more Courtney?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Total Self Alchemy. And I have my next program coming up is a 4-person program in January, a 4-woman program in January. It's a 3-month container, accelerated growth, and you'll leave your bullshit stories behind you.
Or you'll smash them. Can you say that? Say that, like, or I'll smash them.
Or I'll smash them.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. You're an absolute gem. You guys, if your video's up, please silent clap for Courtney. She gave up her time tonight to come on. As I said, I absolutely love this girl and have watched as the world figures out who she is. Get in with her now before she gets to be too big, too busy, and too expensive to work with. I'm going to throw up 2 of my own programs that we still have going on. So I've got a men's program that's starting in January. That's got a couple more spots to it, as well as a women's program. So the first one on the top there, KTNG. So I'm taking 12 guys on a journey. If you like what you heard here, and David, wave for everybody. He's been through my program. He's one of the coaches for me now. And then the second one underneath it, the FFB, is also going to be a women's program. And if you think Courtney's a better fit than I am, please work with Courtney. If you think I'm a better fit, hop on board. We are totally cool with people going the way that works best for them. If we don't have anything else or anyone wants to add anything, let's just close out again with maybe another minute of just eyes closed. Think about what you heard tonight. Think about one thing you want to take away.
Really quickly.
Sure.
For the men who are on here who are from Louisiana, I see a couple of you. I have to brag on you just for a second.
Please.
How just transformational and amazing this man is. Like, if
Thank you.
I'm not just saying that. I mean, he's my coach. If you want to truly change your life, you will work with him.
Thank you. I appreciate you immensely. All right, guys, eyes closed. Some of you may be facing really big decisions right now. I hope what we've given you is a glimpse of the other side. That while there may be a transition to go through, the very first person I called and said, hey, I think I'm going to quit drinking, was a guy named Ross Guiducci. He doesn't care if I give his name. He's like a bigwig Hollywood documentarian, whatever the word is. I just fucked that word up. He said, my life is so much wilder and more crazy now that I quit drinking than it ever was when I was drinking. And I went in my head, bullshit. And now we'll say unequivocally that my life is insane in the best of ways. Every day it's the life I always wanted to live. And so if you're wondering, is this the price of entry to my best life? I'm not going to say whether it is or not, but there's only one way for you to find out. All right, guys, deep in your stomach, find that little flame of strength. Find the point of you that knows truth and just dwell there for a second. Hold it there. Know that there's a version of you, the highest version of you is going to blow through any fear, any apprehension, and any stuckness. And when we operate from that point, our lives fall into place. We do the amazing things we want to do. And I know for a fact that we will surround ourselves with the most incredible, fascinating, honest, authentic humans we've ever known. One more deep breath in. Blow it out. Wiggle fingers and toes. Come on back into the room. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Courtney, for your time, your expertise, and mostly just for being amazing and sharing your story with everybody. And for all of you for coming on and being a part of this. This was an idea a couple weeks ago, and now it's international. Yeah, now fuck it, we're international. We've gone global, but we wouldn't have gone anywhere unless people like you guys all showed up. So thank you so much. If you have questions for me, you have questions for Courtney, we're easy to find. We have links everywhere. If you have Instagram, you've probably seen the two of us all over it, and we're happy to answer any questions you have and to be a part of this journey. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you immensely. Go be uncivilized. Cheers.
Cheers.